What is happening, guys? It's your boy TC back with another video. So we're just coming off of the back of a draw in Russia. It was a very hard fought victory in my opinion. Very difficult evening. The pitch was difficult. The atmosphere was hostile as anticipated. So of course it ended up being a very hard fought victory, a draw, I should say. My apologies. So let's talk about the team selection really going into the game. Of course, the team selection was as anticipated as well. In goal we had Petr Cech. Right back we saw Hector Bellerin coming back into the team. In the middle of defence it was Mustafi and Koscielny. At left back we had Nacho Monreal continuing his duties. Granit Xhaka was actually out due to the flu, so he obviously missed out on the whole trip altogether. In the middle of the park, we saw El Neni come in, and he was reinforced by Jack Wilshere and Aaron Ramsey. Up top, it was Ozil, Welbeck, as well as Lacazette. So obviously the game started off quite well for CSKA Moscow. Really, we were basically having to actually quench the pressure. In the first half, they weren't really that much of a threat, but you could tell that they were certainly fired up. In particular, Golovin, the young midfielder, he was absolutely magnificent for them. Each time he picked the ball up, he was doing something absolutely magnificent. And he seemed like he was the difference. Of course, last time out when they came to Arsenal, he did certainly score a goal. It was a fantastic free kick. So this time round, he certainly helped with what I can consider really is only as an assist. Took a massive shot and the keeper couldn't really clear it. The keeper should have done better really on both goals that were scored by CSKA Moscow. On the first one, took a shot, spelt out by Petr Cech, and one of their players was at hand to actually tap it in. From that moment onwards, you could tell that CSKA Moscow could certainly smell blood. They wanted to obviously finish us off. So at that point, we were playing at 4-2. Which felt quite comfortable, I should say. I wasn't really worried about anything to come. Of course, CSKA Moscow ended up getting a second goal. So at that point, things changed. The whole game, the whole dynamic of the game completely changed. Of course, I mentioned that we had the trio in the middle of the park. Of course, El Neni was magnificent. He was outstanding, I do believe, throughout the whole game. So he capped the performance with 2 assists. But we were playing with patched up midfielders. Of course, we ended up seeing Jack Wilshere coming off. Aaron Ramsey was patched up. He had to go down in the tunnel just before the first half was over. He had to get patched up. He had to get stitches done on his calf. And essentially from that point onwards, we looked a bit shaky. We looked extremely shaky. And eventually they ended up getting their second goal. And again, looked extremely shaky. It looked like they were going to come back into the match, but unfortunately they obviously didn't. We ended up getting a brilliant goal from Danny Welbeck. It was absolutely magnificent. And in one of my match previews recently, I have called for Danny Welbeck to show us a bit more. So he has scored, I think, 4 goals in his last 5 starts. So that's a really good return. And essentially, he scored a brilliant goal. He started off the move on the left-hand side, passed the ball onto El Neni, but before that, he'd actually done a magnificent dummy. It was a brilliant dummy, in my opinion. Beat the player and found El Neni, and El Neni put through a brilliant, nicely weighted pass into Danny Welbeck's path. He had a lot to do. Of course, the keeper was charging him down. There was defenders chasing him as well. He just managed to side foot the ball into the back of the net. At that point, we obviously seemed a bit more comfortable. Jack Wilshere ended up coming off. Callum Chambers came on in his place. So Callum Chambers was then part of a back 3. Of course, CSKA Moscow were continuing to threaten, coming forward whenever they got a chance. However, we were sort of playing on the counter, but we ended up getting the second goal in the dying minutes of the game. Fantastic goal again. Brilliant break. Ramsey found himself in acres of space and he ended up scoring. And the chance was again created by Mohamed El Neni. So he's got 2 assists in today's game and he was absolutely industrious. He was closing things down, running up and down the pitch. So he did look absolutely magnificent. There were a couple of phases as well where we saw Wenger ball being played and it was intricate stuff where CSKA Moscow were very compact. So that was quite enjoyable to watch as well. Of course, we did have some chances that we did squander. Should have taken them chances. Of course, we didn't really bury them. It doesn't really matter now. We are through into the semi-final. So this is the first time we've got into a semi-final since 2009. So a fantastic achievement. The season looked dead and buried. Of course, I don't want to be playing in the Europa League season in, season out. But we've got something certainly to play for now at this particular moment. So there are still a number of teams that are, well, quite difficult teams that are still left in the competition. So I think Salzburg are through. So that's RB Salzburg. I do think Leipzig is also through. We're through, as well as Atletico Madrid. So that is the draw that will be taking place tomorrow. We'll be putting out a video to review the draw itself, but as previously mentioned, I would rather take Atletico Madrid now. Of course, nothing is guaranteed in this competition now. Of course, the teams that are left in the competition are there through merit, but I do believe we are the top scorers within the team. So that's a very, very good stat and a very, very good omen moving forward. But of course, I'd rather take Atletico Madrid now, get them done and dusted out of the way, and then we can certainly move on in the competition if we are going to progress. So as usual, guys, please do let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're watching this video and you're not subscribed to the channel, please do make sure that you do hit that subscribe button. So once again, guys, it's your boy TC from I'm Gonna Talk TV, and I'm out.